Marcus Thompson here with my boss.
You're not here
Coworker.
with you're not here with your boss. By
I'm
the way,
here on the show with my boss.
You're virtual.
My
virtual.
boss. Hey, listen to this though, listeners. My boss is at home. What's up with that?
It's the studio. It's the Kawakami studio. It's the lavish Kawakami
He's
studio.
at home. I am in San Francisco in the conference room, and this is Warriors Plus.
Wow,
Minus.
we're all over the place. We're dynamic.
Right.
We're dynamic. We're covering the whole Bay Area.
And since I'm not there, right? So
What are
I
you doing?
can't
Some
be-
KMBR thing? Is that what you're? What are you doing? What
Yeah,
is it?
I was on KBR 1
Okay,
to 3.
that's what I was wondering. Okay.
But since I'm not there to see your face, I'm gonna ask this question, and I'm gonna need your reaction to be all verbal. Are you ready to declare that JaVale McGee is the starting center for the playoffs?
Come on, how they change just like every 3 games. So I'm not going to declare. I'm saying it doesn't look terrible for that possibility.
You're totally on the JaVale McGee bandwagon now.
Well, those guys like playing with him. I mean, that's the one thing we know. The starting group, the four All-Stars, like playing with JaVale. I don't know that. There's a huge reason for this other than mentally, but they like playing with him. They play better. I mean, we've seen it. The first quarters have been better. So, and Pachulia is still, and Kerr's still playing Pachulia, which I thought he might not play him anymore.
He's not terrible.
And Pachulia's not playing terrible. So it's just like a mental thing with these guys, where if they play better to start the game because JaVale's there for whatever reason, it's more activity, they're laughing, they're looser, whatever it is, then fine. I don't know that it's a lot of basketball to that, but that's fine. It is basketball to get guys, the best players, playing their best, and they like playing with JaVale, so that's okay.
And the part that really, it's only been, really 2 games, but I just presume that this was a placeholder for Jordan Bell,
Yep.
right? And he's the like the hybrid, right, between JaVale McGee and Zaza Pachulia. He's the guy who can finish at the rim and be explosive, but also, do some of the rotational things, show some discipline on defense, right, protect the rim, all of that. But, man, just watching him, just receive the ball in the paint and not even want to do anything, I'm wondering if he becomes effectually another Zaza in that sense.
You mean Jordan Bell?
Jordan Bell, Jordan Bell.
Yeah, absolutely. No
it's
question.
just like, if he's not, the one thing that JaVale is bringing that clearly matters is, especially at the start of the game, they are open in the game, they're executing, they're running their sets, and invariably that 5-man is going to get early touches. It just happens. The other defenses are ready, they're doubling Steph, they're at home on the shooters. That's going to leave that 5-man. That's now JaVale dunking. And that matters. It matters more than probably what it should, but it does.
Yep.
I don't even think Jordan Bell is bringing that yet, which means Zaza's not bringing it. I think JaVale this might be it, and it might not be 20 minutes. It might be that we'll give you 6. We'll probably bring you back for the 3rd. I think they might actually switch roles, because to start the games and to start the halves and not be playing 4-on-5, that's probably what the 4 All-Stars needed. And I didn't see this coming. I didn't see JaVale being the answer to unlock the Warriors.
You thought it was going to be Jordan Bell, right?
I did, no question.
And I could see that. I wasn't sure, because you just never know what a guy's going to be like when he's coming back from injuries, particularly a rookie. And you are right, as I've noted throughout and gotten Warriors fans mad at me, Jordan Bell is strangely static when he gets the ball with 2 steps away from the rim. When he's running, he's great, right? He can just fly through the air. He really doesn't like jumping off of, in the middle of traffic, and I don't really understand it. He might have to
dribble,
he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to dribble at all. And he just starts looking to pass it. Then you basically have a larger version of Iguodala underneath, a guy who's just looking to pass it. He did try it. He did go to the hoop last night. He did one of those one dribble, draw the defender and dish it off moves, and I think Draymond got fouled on it. which is more than he's been doing, and maybe he was working on that a little bit. But he gets a little Zaza-like when he gets the ball. There's a one dribble power dunk opportunity, and he just does not want it, and he's looking to give it up, and that's where the turnovers come with Pachulia and with him. Like they get scared. Oh my God, defense is coming at me. What do I do? And JaVale doesn't do that. JaVale just goes to try to dunk it, and you're right. It just the mix with those other four guys when there's so much space for that fifth guy. Maybe just to start the game, JaVale's the guy. I don't think this is the way Steve Kerr was thinking it was going to be.
At all, right? Like this is not how he drew it up.
No. And maybe it's not how it's going to be in 10 games, but right now I understand it. And if they're going to get a better Pachulia out of it, by the way, that's like a double surprise. They had no idea.
Explain that.
I don't get it. I don't get that one.
Yeah, because you were saying like if you don't start him, when is he gonna play? Which is a good question because how does he fit? Can you put him in a lineup where the offense is already scarce, right? I don't know how that fits. Do you bring him back in later as a jolt off the bench, and later in the first quarter and third quarter with Steph? I don't know if that's probably the same problems in the first quarter, like on paper, but actually when he's out there, he actually does fit, right? He actually it's what I think it is. I think number one, his screens help, right?
Oh, no question.
His screens are helping in a unit that needs all the help it can to get offense. I'm actually very surprised at how productive Zaza looks off the bench. I know I wrote it in theory, he could probably bring this, but I was more with you, like, if he doesn't start, when do you play him, right?
But it's that back end of the first and third quarters, so he's with Steph, but still, maybe it's like they just got to get into rhythm. They get into rhythm without him. He comes in and they're already in rhythm, specifically, Steph and Clay. And then he can just start setting screens for him and then knock around some people. And I know Warriors fans are swearing he's not dirty. Of course he's not dirty. Who would? It's just been by accident that he's run into all these guys. But maybe he runs into a couple guys and they don't like it. And guys tend to shy away from Zaza screens. There's a reason why this happens, and there's value to that, whether you think he's dirty or not. Guys just kind of like, I don't think I need to run through this screen. I think I might be able to play behind this one. And
Let's go under.
Absolutely. Then Steph and Clay get wide open shots, and that's how the rhythm starts going. So maybe just to start the game, literally just those first 6 minutes, JaVale McGee's the answer. It might end up being Jordan Bell later on down the road, but if they're feeling good with JaVale, it's not like they're blowing people out in the first quarter, by the way, but they're just playing better, and all they need to do is not lose the game in the first quarter and turn it over at the end of in the second quarter. Say, okay, second unit now, make up this 15-point deficit. As long as they don't do that, then they're going to win a lot of games.
I also think too, like the change in starting lineup, like it helps Zaza because he's, it's not just rote. It's not, you're not going to be the starter just because. And it probably brought out some competitiveness in him, like let me play better. But I also think it was a message from Steve Kerr and his staff that okay, the season really begins now.
Yes.
Like we're going to determine now is the time to go, and I'm going to give you this lineup change as the cue. And I think that like we see Iguodala, and he looks like he's flipped the switch.
Yep.
And I think that mattered a lot. That Steve Kerr said, all right, now's the time. Let me make some changes. I know you wrote about how it just got real,
yep,
but you can see it in the urgency with which they play, that Steve Kerr is kind of giving them permission. Like, all right, I've done my part. Now it's time for you guys to step it up.
Yeah, I guess I wrote that, maybe the players weren't going to really care about this until the coaches showed that they cared about this. And their move was pull out Zaza Pachulia and put JaVale McGee in the starting lineup. But you know what? Kerr set this up. I mean, I was saying maybe he's talking about this All-Star break too much because he talked about it like for a month, how much they needed the All-Star break with, 12 games left or whatever it was. And you kind of talk yourself into being tired. If you keep saying, oh, my God, we need this break because we're so tired, even if you're not that tired, you convince yourself you are. But it's kind of psychological. Then you trudge through this. You get to the All-Star break, you get the week off, or with Steph and Clay and Draymond and Durant only got about 3 days off, but you get 3 days off, sitting on a beach somewhere, then you feel like, oh my God, now I'm refreshed. Because like if you keep talking about it and you get through it, then you feel great, and you get this 24-game sprint, and I don't know. Maybe Klay Thompson's right. Maybe they're going to go 24-0. I don't know. I don't think so, but they're 3-0, whatever they are. Are they 4-0? Whatever they are after the break.
4-0.
Yeah.
Yep, 4-0.
And we'll see. We'll see what happens the next set of games. But here's a question for you. Do you think they should try to go 24-0?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely. I don't even think they need to win that many. Look, Houston's playing great. They've won 14 straight. They got a tough stretch coming up here. If they get through this stretch, I think it's like a 4-game road trip against playoff teams. If they get through this, then it's like, all right, maybe you do need to win 22 games down the stretch. But they probably will drop a couple, and I think the Warriors will be fine. I also don't think here's what they don't want. They don't want to press the gas too early and then be relatively exhausted when the playoffs start.
Yep.
Like, there's a way you kind of got to, like, work up to it. And you can see it. They still aren't on all cylinders. So it don't make sense to press it now. Press it in the first round of the playoffs. And if maybe down the stretch, if it's close and you got 4 games left and you need to win 4 to get the 1 seed, I can see doing it then. But to win 20, right? Like, I don't know if that's the goal here. Just play it out. Just play it out. If Houston runs away, they just run away and you're the 2 seed. If it's close at the end, then you see that. But to do it now, there's still a quarter of the season left, right? So it's like, that's not nothing.
What they don't want to do is gun for it and then don't get it, right? Then you're tired and you're the 2 seed. And it's possible with the way Houston's playing. It's possible. It's possible that the Warriors go, say they go 18-2. Well, let's say 17-3 the rest of the way. Houston could go, they could go 18-2. Houston could. We've seen what they're up to, man. They are blistering right now. And as Marcus Thompson might say, they're ones who have something to prove. They're the ones who haven't won a title. They're the ones who are looking up at the Warriors for 3 years and saying, "You got what we want." Chris Paul, James Harden, they're burning with this. So maybe they're the ones who burn themselves out. Maybe they're the ones who get a little.
Are they peaking too early?
No, they're peaking too early. Yeah, they are peaking too early. Now, doesn't mean you can't have a flat spot then come right back up in the Western Conference Finals and be sharp again. But they are peaking pretty early. They're playing fantastic right now, and it's going to stop, and then maybe they come back up again.
I just feels like they've won 14 straight, right? And they're playing great. And they're a half game up. Like, I wonder if that's demoralizing. Well, you win 14 straight, you probably want some kind of cushion.
I think it's good.
They want, and they might not get the 1 seed still.
Yeah, I think it's good for both teams, though. Just generally, they have each other. It's not just a runaway.
Question.
They're looking at each other. They're measuring against it, just like the Warriors did with the Spurs the year they won 73. Now, they didn't win a championship that year, but it made them better through the regular season. They had to keep winning to make sure they stayed ahead of San Antonio, because they did. Well, and that's the one thing we can say. They were much stronger in their feelings that they didn't want Game 7 against San Antonio than they feel about Game 7 against Houston. I feel that 100%. Like, they're kind of into getting the number 1 seed against Houston. Against San Antonio, it was, we got to get the number 1 seed.
Got to get it. Yeah,
we do not want Game 7 in San Antonio.
Yeah, that's a daunting prospect. Hey, you caused a little stir, by the way.
I never do.
On social media by overpraising Steph on a very mediocre game.
I just throw numbers out there. All I do is throw numbers out there, and people go nuts sometimes.
From what you have seen, like, we know Steph is Steph, right? He's going to be plus-minus leader. From what you've seen from Andre Iguodala, do you think he went to Germany and got a PRP?
No, he told us before.
That's right, LA.
They got German doctors in LA now. It's not like they got to go to it's LA.
Hey, where was the All-Star game?
It was in LA.
LA.
No, he was on a golf course in Palm Desert, though, so he wasn't there.
They give him PRP and golf courses.
Yeah,
now?
I think 4 tee. Yeah, just 4 tee box. You just kind of get up there and you take your turn. Hey, I don't know that he's a little springier, but he's just focused now. You can just see it. It's like, you know what? It's time to go. It's time to go. Now, can he do it for 3 more months? We'll see. But he's making 3-pointers, Marcus. What the hell's that?
Man, he's making pull-up jumpers.
Making his free throw, swishing 2 free throws last night. I think he's taken a lot. You know, Andre. He doesn't ever say. He just jokes about everything, if he's even joking. But I think he's taken some of this like he doesn't love the talk that he's not not a great player anymore or not even a good player anymore. I think we all here acknowledge his value. I had a little kerfuffle on the internet about comparing his value to Carmelo Anthony, but I think he sees all this. He's a social media guy, and he's taken some of his little chip. Andre loves to have the chip on his shoulder. He loves to have people not believe that he can do anything. And you know what? It took him a little while longer than we're used to, but he's pulled it out of his pocket again. He goes, "Here you go. Here's Andre Iguodala. Here's the guy you're going to see in the playoffs."
And here's what, like, that's big because you need Iguodala playing well, right? But it's amazing how immediately the moment Iguodala started playing better, Nick Young becomes irrelevant, right?
Yep.
Omri Caspi,
well,
you don't miss
less than relevant. Omri Caspi
right.
not even play.
You don't miss, Patrick
McCaw.
Like the moment he plays better, those guys become marginal. So now even if they don't play well, it's like, all right, well, they're still fine. When before, without Iguodala, it was like, what are you going to do about that backup 2 spot? It was immediate these last 4 games. I don't know. Nick Young had one good game where he hit a bunch of threes, and out of all of them, that's it. That's it. They haven't done it. And it doesn't even matter. That's the impact. And obviously Sean Livingston, too, is in there. But in the end, like when Sean Livingston, when we talked to him on this podcast before, it's going to be those guys. Yes. Like that's the ball game. It's those guys. And if Andre is playing well, now Nick Young is the extra, right? He's the bonus. Omri Caspi is not getting off the court, even though I think he probably would have been good. I think Omri Caspi might be the answer for the offensive rebounding issues because he's one of those guys who's just all over the place. How do you box that guy out, right? And he's not the big bruiser, but man, he moves so much. I kind of like if they're in a situation where they're giving up a bunch of boards, I'd say throw them out there. Of course, on offense.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're going to do that.
I know, right? He came to me and said I overstated his issue with layups. He was like, "Nah, man, I'm pretty good at the rim."
Yep.
He's like, "You're right. You're right about the threes, though."
Yep.
I was like, "That was respectful. I get it."
Yep. No, they by the way, they read everything, and he hasn't not been great at the rim. He's been flipping it up there, and some of that might be the health issue or whatever. But he's flipping the ball like these 1-footers. He's flipping them 6 feet in the air, and they're going off the front rim. So I don't think they're going to play Omri Caspi very much the rest of the way. I think Nick Young, you're right. Like if Iguodala is going good, Kurt just throws Nick Young out there and you get 5 minutes and nothing. That's okay, as long as he's kind of standing in front of somebody. As long as somebody has to defend him, and then everyone, the other 4 guys go do something. And that's where they're at right now. Like they can Nick Young just go out there and don't be a big negative. Just don't, like Ian Clark. That's what wasn't that what Ian Clark was? He had some decent games, but just don't be a big negative. Just
and
don't
your guy, Leandro Barbosa.
Oh, of course, the great Barbosa. Did you see that guy got pissed off at me when I was joking that Barbosa, if they didn't have Iguodala, then Barbosa would be their shutdown guy for LeBron, and some guy was screaming at me like I didn't know anything because I think Barbosa's going to shut him down. That's so classic internet. Somebody's ripping me.
I mean, you got to put hashtag sarcasm.
No,
man.
they don't quite get that. That's all right. It's the greatness of internet. It's the greatness of
internet. It's the greatness of internet.
Yeah.
Do you have any concerns about David West being able to sustain his, great play? I don't know, last against Washington and even against Oklahoma City, it seems like the bruisers who could move kind of give him some problems, right?
Yeah.
It just had me wondering, like he is 37, right? He's not young.
He's carried that group for a long time.
Yes, he has.
And he might have hit a little wall, but sometimes you hit a wall and then you feel better in about a couple weeks when you're that age. So I don't say it would wave it over because they got to play him. I mean, there's nobody else they're going to play with that group, but he has looked a little slow, no question. And the jumper isn't – ever since he did our show, by the way, this jumper hasn't looked so great. But that's all right. I don't think that they were going to count on him shooting 58% all season long. And, as long as he hits a couple jumpers in every game in the playoffs, I think they're going to be just fine. And, and that unit, just hold on. But Kerr's playing them 7-minute runs in these things, which I think is a little bit much. but he just doesn't want to bring in anybody else until they put Draymond in to finish the half. Like, does he play another center in the second and fourth quarters? I think
No, it's
just,
Draymond.
yeah, it's West, and then to get to Draymond, and he doesn't want to do Draymond except for like 4.5 minutes. So basically, West has got to play 7.5 minutes, which is a long.
He brings Steph and KD back,
Yep.
and he plays with David West.
Yeah, which he did not do that. He did not do that last year.
No, yeah, he's on the court a long time.
Yep.
And he's getting some first quarter minute or some he's
first,
played.
little subbing in at the end of the first quarter. He did it in the first game. I don't know if he did it after. I think Kerr was disappointed. I didn't notice that, which I did, but I just didn't ask him. David West is going to have to be in this, a big time part of this rotation in the playoffs. There's just no question. They don't have another guy who can do that stuff. It's interesting that Kerr's playing Jordan Bell at power forward. I don't quite get that. But I think some of it is just they want him to develop other skills. So when they play him at the 5, he can do some things. He just doesn't think he's just doing, Zaza Pachulia stuff. He's got to do other stuff. But who knows? They're throwing a lot of different combinations out there, and I think they just want Bell to play some minutes, basically.
We're going to take a quick break for a word from our friends at ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? Every business needs great people and a better way to find them. Something better than posting your job online and just praying for the right people to see it. ZipRecruiter knew there was a smarter way, so they built a platform that finds the right job candidates for you. ZipRecruiter learns what you're looking for, identifies people with the right experience, and invites them to apply to your job. These invitations have revolutionized how you find your next hire. In fact, 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. And ZipRecruiter doesn't stop there. They even highlight the strongest applications you receive, so you never miss a great match. The right candidates are out there. ZipRecruiter is how you find them. Businesses of all sizes trust ZipRecruiter for their hiring needs. Right now, Warriors Plus Minus listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/Warriors. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Warriors. One more time, that's ZipRecruiter.com/Warriors. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
So let's handicap the threats to the Warriors. We got 20-something games left. Let's go down the list. Who's the biggest threat for the Warriors? Are you on Houston?
Oh God, yeah. It's the biggest threat. Yes, yeah, no question. They're a good team. They're a really, really good team, and they're now specifically built to play the Warriors. They can, they can play fast. They can play slow. They can play defensive. They've got 2 guys instead of just one who can finish off possessions. They're tougher. I don't think they're better than the Warriors, but I think they're the number one challenge the Warriors have faced in the playoffs, in the West at least. I mean, some of those, clearly the 2016 Cavaliers are the one that beat them. But I just think if you look at the up and down the roster, I think Houston is the toughest 12-person, 13-person team that the Warriors are looking at, certainly in the West, since the Kerr era began.
I'm gonna go Houston mostly because who else is there, right?
Yeah, I mean,
just not.
It's Cleveland if you want to go Cleveland, but I don't know that's.
They had that initial hype, and then they started looking like a team with George Hill's the second best player.
Exactly. It's like that. So. That's what I should have said it at the time, but everyone. Oh, the Lakers gave up all these great players and Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance Jr. and then also they got George Hill from. Oh my. Those guys weren't that good this year, by the way. It's like you went nuts on this, and the Lakers gave them up because they were the middle of that roster of a terrible team. So, maybe they're livelier than Dwayne Wade, Derrick Rose, and all that crap, but I don't think these are.
Channing Frye.
I don't think it's that big a difference.
It'd be great if they had Kyrie, right, or another. If they had
a healthy Kevin Love. I mean, that will change them. But not dramatically against the Warriors. But that would be a difference. Other than that, it's like the same old stuff. And I still think Boston's a tougher matchup for the Warriors than Cleveland. We shall see. They've kind of all hit the wall at once, but Kyrie's tough on them. There's a bunch of long guys. I just think defensively they do more stuff. And also I don't think Boston's going to be Cleveland though. So that's that's not a problem that the Warriors might have to deal with. But I think my second team would be Boston. My third team would be Oklahoma City. Would you disagree with that? Oh, I put Cleveland in there somewhere too.
Yeah, my second team would be Cleveland. My third team would be Oklahoma City. Like you said, I don't think Boston gets there.
Nope.
I just don't see it. Otherwise, like if I knew they would get there, then that's going to be a tough matchup. Yeah. Oklahoma City has that. They're like high risk, high reward, right? Like they'll either be spectacular, and if they can play spectacular, it'll be tough. But they can also like play terribly, right? Yep. They've got that real low end. I just feel like James Harden looks very scary right now.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
He looks like a player on a mission. He looks like 2015-16 Curry, right? And then you're throwing in a Chris Paul who's probably got to be as hungry as he's ever been. And that's something, man. That's if they get into a series together, I could see them two just carrying them on sheer will, like I don't want to be embarrassed again, right? I don't want another early exit, or I want to get over this hump. I could see them two like really challenging the Warriors that way. I don't think there's no other test. We saw that in 2016 finals, like LeBron, Kyrie, let's just say like we're not going to lose. And they did it. Yep. I don't know if Harden and Paul are that good, but we just don't know the heights that they can get to because they are Hall of Famers. There might be another level. Outside of that, everybody has so many flaws that they can just be exploited. I think San Antonio might just tailspin real quick here unless Kawhi gets back.
Yep.
And it's gonna be rough.
Yeah, I agree. And they could give somebody trouble in a series, but I don't see them going through 3 series. I just don't see that. There's too many other things that could go wrong with them, and they're going to need Ginobili to make 5 plays in the fourth quarter at age 47. So I just don't see that happening, and we saw the Warriors just chew right through them last season. Obviously, Kawhi got hurt, but I think the Warriors were going to chew through them. It might not have been a sweep, but they were going to go through them last season, and I don't think San Antonio is a lesser team than that right now. So, here's the question: like, what team would make the Warriors play great to beat them? I think there's only one, and it's Houston. I think all the others they could play decent. Boston, I think, would be the one that they would have to play the best, other than Houston. But I think they could beat Cleveland up. Like, did they play great against Cleveland last season in the finals? Maybe 2 games.
They played great in spots though. Exactly. It was like we're gonna play lights out for a quarter, and that was it.
Yep. I mean,
I think Oklahoma City, if they're playing their best, would force them to play great. But the thing with Oklahoma City is, they're not doing that 4 times. Yep. You just know it.
Yep.
They're not. They might have 2 in them. We might have already seen the 2.
Yep.
But they're going to come back to earth. That's just what they're going to do. There's some matchup things that are worrisome. Steven Adams is just a load.
Yep.
Like, period. Like, if you're just ranking the players that bother the Warriors that are, that they might see on these lists, Steven Adams is going to be really high up on the what do we do about him list. And that's ahead of Westbrook.
Oh, no. I was going to say, who is not on that list? There's another player who's on that team who's ahead of Westbrook.
Yeah, no question.
Paul George, no question.
Paul George, yep. And it's just like, what are we going to do about
it? Oh, by the way, who's really, really not – who's on another list for them? Who like they love seeing on the court on that team?
Melo.
Yes.
Draymond's like, please play Carmelo, please.
I'm not allowed to say this on the internet because people get really mad, but there's certain guys they love seeing Carmelo Anthony.
Please say Carmelo.
Blake Griffin.
Blake Griffin, absolutely.
Ryan Anderson. They love seeing those guys out there. Love it.
So, which would be the ideal 8 seed or first? How about this first round matchup for the Warriors in case they are a 2 seed? And who would be the worst first round matchup for the Warriors?
It's so jumbled up. It's hard for me to really, figure that one out. I think the Clippers they'd like the Clippers just because the travel would be so nice. I think they could win the first 2 at home and just, make the Clippers quit. The Clippers are better now. I think, they're kind of fun, but they're not good enough to beat the Warriors. So it would be one of those where the Clippers are game. They fight hard, and then the Warriors get to sweep, and then they can rest. I think that would be their best first-round matchup, however it turns out. We've always talked about how Denver's tricky on them. I don't think it would be a brutally hard series, but I think I can see Denver taking a game in there and making the Warriors sweat a little bit. But I think the Clippers would be the toughest. I mean, it would be the one they most want to see. And then all the rest, you kind of jumble them up. Like the Jazz aren't a super talented team, but they're got hot. They have some tricky players. You have that tough arena, little altitude. All the rest are just I kind of throw in a box. Portland's the Warriors match up well with them, but Portland can still get either one of their guards can go get 40 on you on a particular night. So I just kind of throw the rest of them together, and I just say Denver might be the hardest, and the Clippers the one they most would like, and everyone else is kind of the same. I don't know if you can pull out anyone else differently like that.
I would go with Portland as the one that might be the easiest.
Yeah.
I mean, they've seen them before.
It's the right style.
It's the right style. Yeah, they don't play any defense, so like they do have like a puncher's chance in a game where they could get 40, but there's just going to be no resistance from them. Yeah. It's not going to be a physical series. They're not going to beat you up. None of that. I think Denver. I don't think it will be. It will be tough because that's going to be a physical series. They're going to have to execute. It's just going to require some mental fortitude. I mean, it shouldn't be that much, but it will be enough to be memorable. Yeah. I wonder where New Orleans fits in that too. Yeah. But the way Anthony Davis is playing, I mean, he looks like a handful to deal with. But still, I think that would be an easy series.
Yeah,
I think the worst.
Go ahead.
The worst I think is that Oklahoma City falls to 8, and now because it's going to be such an emotionally charged series and physical that I think they get them in 5, but. It's like, do you really want that as your first round? Yeah. Right? Where you're all amped and everything is on 10. That's the type of series that if you get it in the first round, you feel it in the West Finals. You feel it in NBA Finals. Yep. That's the one, and they're 7 right now, so it's highly possible. Like I think they barely won a game last night against Dallas in overtime. It's like they lose a couple of those games, they'll be 8 seed, and now you've got the the just super dramatic, and can you imagine the Westbrook Durant storyline? And they're gonna want to beat, and you're doing all that in the first round. And I think that for me, that's the one that's if you're like, you're gonna feel that later, right? That's gonna be a problem later.
Yep, and I'd say that's the one team that all the ones we talked that probably could get a game at Oracle. Yep. I don't think the other Denver. We've seen them do it. If they're a focused. In tune Warriors, they probably aren't going to lose at home to Denver. But I can see Oklahoma. But we've seen it. We've seen Oklahoma when the Warriors really want to win a game, and we've seen Oklahoma City beat them at Oracle. So yeah, it's such a jumble. It's really going to be you just don't know who they're going to draw. Nobody knows, and who's going to be the 4-5 for the one to play after. I don't know. I mean, because San Antonio could fall all the way down there. It's a scramble to try to figure out who's going to get who. Can you imagine, being the 2 and ending up with San Antonio in the first round? And if Kawhi's back, that wouldn't be fun. That would
not be fun at all, right?
That's a team you don't want to get in the second round, and you're going to get them in the first round. So it's just hard to get a finger on any of it other than just play well. The Warriors play well and Houston play well. They're going to get through whoever else, and they're going to face each other, and then we're going to figure out from there. But I just don't know. Any of those you throw out there, I just think, I think Ron Adams could figure out a way to stop Anthony Davis. Not stop him, but make sure he doesn't hurt him. I think Ron Adams could we know he can figure out a way to slow down Westbrook. We know he can figure out a way to slow down Carmelo. We know, all those I keep going. I think they can figure out a way, and their offense isn't going to be stopped. Then you get to Houston, and that's the one, okay, we have not yet seen that, and that's the one I'm curious about. All the other ones, they're going to figure it out on their way.
Yeah, Houston's gonna be tough. Yep. I mean, like if Clay's guarding Harden, right, or Chris Paul, whoever, whatever happens, one of them guys gonna go out the game, and the other is gonna get free reign. Yep. And then the other, like, who's guard that second wave of Chris Paul, right? When it's just the Chris Paul team, and then who's guarding it when he takes the rest? And Like, is that same person gonna be on the court the whole game?
Yeah,
Right.
it's Clay.
That's
Clay
Clay and Iguodala.
Yeah,
I think it's Clay and Iguodala.
Slater actually had a funny line that I had to kind of alter last night. He goes, Clay Thompson has had these incredible tough defensive assignments. Like against Oklahoma City, he had to guard he had to guard Russell Westbrook and Paul George, and I kind of had a parentheses, but not at the same time because they do have other players. Yeah, he does have to pick one of them. He's not guarding both of them. But that's why you have Iguodala. Absolutely. That's why they want McCaw healthy at that point, because he can give him some minutes against Chris Paul. Chris Paul's going to beat him, but makes it a little tougher. Although I guess Ron Adams has a new secret way to guard Westbrook in that matchup. Just throw Nick Young again. I was like, that was bizarre. He got 4 possessions against Nick Young, and Westbrook doesn't shoot, doesn't attack any of it. It's like he saw Nick Young go, you know what? They're not bothering, so to hell with it. There's no challenge. And so they don't get any points out of it. It was bizarre. That genius Ron Adams. Weird. Genius Ron Adams.
It's like, I mean, that's what he does, though, right? It's like, I still remember when he's like, all right, Bogut, you guard Tony Allen. Yep. We're like, what?
Yep.
And it works. That's what he does.
Yep.
So TK, we've got some questions.
I believe we do. Ben Cruz is like lining them up here. So fire away, producer Ben Cruz.
All right, guys, here we go. Again, millions of questions this week. The fans really came through, so thank you for these. Keep sending them. So 1 question from Twitter today, 2 via email. So the first one on Twitter via Dr. Dre NoCal, very clever. Will Jordan Bell be able to get back to the second or third man off the bench role by the end of the regular season?
I think he'll get there. I think he might end up being a starter if they could kind of figure out how to get him in that role. If he's a role man and he's finishing, they got to get it in his mind to go up, go attack. I don't think he does that. And JaVale is like a couple bad stretches away from Steve Kerr putting him back on the shelf.
Yes, right? He's always there. He's always there.
That's his existence. So I feel like he can get there, and he's young, he's athletic, he's got some good weight on him. He's strong. Like, they're gonna need that at some point, right, TK?
Yeah, I do think they do sense that they could use some dynamic athleticism. Sometimes you just notice the ball bounces around, and they're the last ones to it every time, and they do know it. And they just need someone who can go chase down the ball ball handler, get to the rim, be electric. And he does give that. JaVale gives it to them in one regard, but not in the chase down the loose ball way. And I think I'll just put it this way: the answer is the Warriors want him to be one of their first 2 guys off the bench.
The answer.
Now we'll just see if he can get there, but I think they really would like to be more dynamic, and that's why maybe Zaza really flourishes in that second center role. I think they're kind of pointing Jordan Bell towards that. They'd like to go with that spot, and so he could be subbing in with Iguodala in that at the 6.5 minute mark. That's, I think, where they're targeting. Whether that actually happens and when it happens, I don't know, but I think that's what they're targeting.
All right, what else you got, Ben?
Got another one for you via Mohan Sankaran via email. If the Hamptons 5 continue to scuffle in the regular season, do you see Kerr going a different direction in the playoffs to finish the first and second halves?
I think this will be mostly matchup driven. I think if they're getting crushed on the offensive glass, I think he switches it up. But in the end, we know what this is, right? These are
5 best players.
Yeah, right. This is what it is. It's gonna be that until they show they can't do it. I think the only thing that changes it is if you got a guy like Steven Adams, and it's like, Draymond, we got 5 minutes. We need you to do it. But if he's done that 5 minutes already, right, you might not. So that's the only thing I see them not doing it. But in the end, like Iguodala just showed, he's gonna show up. At least that's what they're banking on, is he's going to show up. And if they don't, they lose. If they lose, they will lose because those guys didn't show up.
Yep, that's Iguodala's the big one. If he is playing well, you have to close with that group. You just have to. And they have been beat the last couple games, but it's who they are. It's the way they play their best. It was great against Oklahoma City. They speed everybody up and they force teams to play their way. It's going to take a lot for Kerr to go away from that, and and even if it is playing terribly, he's still going to start it and still close with it in the playoffs, and then it'll have to be a very bad unit in the playoffs for him ever to go away from it. in my opinion, and he shouldn't. It's the best five players.
That's literally what it is. It's best 5 players, and you know what? So much of this really hinges on Steph Curry and Klay Thompson making shots, right? If they make shots, that unit looks a whole lot better. They're never really that terrible on D. It's when they get 3 trips without a bucket, right? Get through 3 trips, and now they haven't strung together any offense. And then the other team comes down and gets a couple offensive rebounds. Now, like, that's the real issue. And sometimes they don't make shots. That's the way it is. But if they do, I think that unit is fine. And if Draymond is playing possess, I don't think there's anybody he can't guard. So, yeah, that's the unit. That's the championship right there. And it might be the last time, right, TK? Because at some point they're going to change. They're going to change. They're going to change how they operate.
But yeah, they are. But they'll go into next season hoping, if they play well this postseason, they're going to go in next season hoping it's okay, but with plans that they might be able to change it. But I don't think it's going to happen like that dramatic, that fast. I think the changes are going to be kind of around the margins for now, unless somebody steps up and they can make that big move, but maybe not for a little while. We got another question?
Last one. Abel John via email asks, call it right now. Will the Warriors or Rockets end up with the number 1 seed out west?
I'm gonna say the Warriors. The Rockets' schedule looks pretty daunting.
Yep.
They got a nice road trip coming up. They're playing some tough teams, and you know what? It's probably best for them if they lose too. So I think I do see them. You know, not maybe a losing streak, but one of those 5-8. 5-9 they lose.
Houston's
at some point.
Houston's gonna lose 5. We're gonna lose 9 games.
They're gonna lose 5 and 9. I think they're gonna have a rough stretch.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah, I think the Warriors are likely to be the number 1 seed, but I don't think it's a sure thing. And if they got to rest some guys, maybe they back out of it. But I see them. The pride of this team's too much. They're just going to want to not have Houston be seen as the better team. And I think they'll kick it into the gear. They've already started doing it. They'll get to 66 wins. Houston will be a 65, 64, and the Warriors will be the number 1 seed there. I'm calling it right there. Typical couple guys who cover the Warriors, and the Warriors are going to end up with the number 1 seed.
So the next Rockets game they have Boston.
Yep.
Oklahoma City.
They got some back-to-backs in there too, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Milwaukee. Oklahoma City, Milwaukee back-to-back. Yep. Toronto. Then they get a breather with Dallas, San Antonio, Clippers, New Orleans, Timberwolves, Blazers, Pistons, New Orleans again, Hawks, Bulls, and Suns. And they got back to the Spurs, back to the Wizards. I mean, they play Oklahoma City a couple of times. Like, I could see them losing, 5 more games. Yep. And that might be enough.
Yep. Warriors go, lose 3 more, lose 4 more. I guess I think lose 4 more, and they finish ahead of them. No, 3 more. They only lose 3 more. Yeah, absolutely. And the Warriors seem to want this, and the Warriors seem to want it, and they seem to talk about it. They tend to, certainly in the regular season, they tend to get it, and usually in the playoffs. So 66. Warriors get to 66. It's hard for me to see that Houston gets 66 too. And if they do, more power to them, and then watch out for those Western Conference Finals.
Hey, so TK, are you disappointed that you didn't send me to DC?
Yeah, I thought I did, but then I realized I didn't. So, no, we're fine with it. They wanted it to be private. They didn't want the media. They didn't want markets.
See what happens when we try to respect their privacy and say, you know what? And then Klay.
Yep.
Come on.
It's Klay. It's beautiful. It's Klay. So it's Klay's there for. It didn't cause him any harm.
Nope.
He just blurted it out because he's Klay. Because he can. What are they going to do? Not invite him to any more team meetings? No. Take him off the group chat?
It cost me a company-sponsored trip to the National Museum of African American History and Culture.
That's also true. But I was willing to send you out there. You know that.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Klay blew it. Now I got to pay myself now when I go.
You'll find a way to charge the company. You'll find
Absolutely. I'm glad you understand that, sir.
Yes.
By the way, I have to go to spring training because of you.
Yeah, I've heard you say this. So.
Yeah, so my listeners, Warriors Plus Minus listeners, please let him hear it.
Mean. We'll still do a Warriors plus minus while you're in spring training with us.
That's correct. We sure will.
Would bat on ball, and we'll talk some ball too. We'll talk
sure will.
Little pitch counts and mound business, and it'll be great. Everyone will love it.
Perfect. All right, we're out of here.
Later.